everyone. We will start our class today. So good morning from Indonesia. Selamat datang and a warm welcome to our online joint class, a collaborative program between Telkom University Indonesia and University of San Agustin, the Philippines. I'm Astri from Telkom University International Office as the chairperson for today's class. Joining us today, our excellent speakers, Bapak Roy Budiharjo SEMAK, STLU lecturer, and then Mr. Ace Jeremy M. Nino, MBA, CPA, CLSSYB, as USA lecturer. Sorry if I mispronounce your name, sir. Also, we would like to welcome all of you, students from Telkom University Indonesia and the students from University of San Agustin, the Philippines. Welcome all to the online joint class in Cost Accounting Session 2. All right, everyone, before we start today's presentation or today's online joint class, let me remind you the basic rules of today's agenda. During the speaker's presentation, kindly turn off the microphone. And for those who want to ask a question during the presentation, please drop it in the feature of chat. And we will also follow up those questions in the discussion session after the presentation. And then participants are encouraged to ask directly to speakers in the discussion session later. All participants also are encouraged to turn on the video in the photo group session at the end of the class. And then later, at the end of the session, participants are requested to fill out the feedback to improve our next program as well as to get the e-certificate. Now, without further ado, let's begin our online joint class. So we encourage everyone to stay engaged. Feel free to use the chat feature to share thoughts and questions. All right, everyone, the speaker who will deliver the material for the first speaker, Mr. Ace Jerome M. Nino, MBA CPA CLSSYB from University of San Agustin. Hello, good morning, Mr. Ace.
Good morning,
All right.
ma'am.
Are you ready for today's presentation, sir?
Yes,
All right,
I do.
everyone. Students, please welcome Mr. Ace.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Greetings from the Philippines. My name is Ace again, and I'll be your lecturer. Good morning to our guest speaker also, or our lecturer, and also the students of Telcom University and University of San Agustin. Now, I was assigned or tasked to discuss to you about the topic, or I'm sorry, I need to share my screen. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, it's visible, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, so once again, good morning. I am tasked to discuss the cost accounting, particularly with the cost allocation, joint products, and byproducts. Okay, so before we start, of course, we need to know the status or the confidence of our students from the Telcom University and University of San Agustin. So kindly answer this on the scale of 1 to 5. How confident do you feel about understanding joint products and byproducts before we begin today's session? You can chat or key in or encode your answer from 1 to 5 in our chat box. All right. So from 1, or if you're not confident at all, then you can put 1 in the chat box. Or if you're very confident, then you can put 5. If you are confident, then you can put 4. Okay. So you can rate yourself about the topic today. Let me see. Um, I don't know if I can see yeah. All right. So someone put 4.5. There are 3, 3.5, 4, 3. All right. I think on average, Yep, there is maybe a confidence level in our students, both in Telcom and University of San Agustin, about the topic cost allocation, joint products, and byproducts. So, yep, so fair enough. We can already start with our discussion by listing out the following learning objectives. So, there are actually six learning objectives, and I was tasked to discuss to you the learning objectives one, two, three. So this is the identify the split off point in a joint cost situation and distinguish the joint products and from the byproducts. Learning objective two, explain why joint costs are allocated to individual products. And lastly, allocate joint costs using the four methods. And the learning objective four to six will be discussed by our um, telecom lecturer. So to begin, let's proceed with learning objective number one. Now, many companies such as petroleum refiners produce and sell two or more products simultaneously. For example, we have here in the slides presentation, ExxonMobil sells petroleum, natural gas, and raw liquefied petroleum gas, or what we call the LPG, which are produced when the company extracts and refines crude oil. Similarly, in a healthcare providers offers multiple services such as a medical treatment, nursing care, and rehabilitation to patients. Now, the question here is how should these companies allocate cost to joint products and services? Now, this chapter examines methods for allocating cost to joint products. We also examine how the cost numbers appropriate for one purpose, such as the external reporting, or may not be appropriate for other purposes, such as decision about the further processing of joint products. Okay? Now let's proceed with the basic concept or of joint costs. Now, as you can see here, we have here three definitions or costs to be considered in our topic. The first one is what we call the joint cost. Now, when we say joint costs, as defined, these are the costs of production process that yields multiple products simultaneously. Distillation of coal yields coke, natural gas, or other products that cost of distillation are considered joint costs. So as you can see here in the other side, in the exhibit, let me, yep, if you can see this laser point, so this is the joint product process. And as we define joint costs, here is the joint costs, which under the common production process. Okay, so you have the joint input and then you have the joint cost before it will be separate or produce a multiple products. Now, when we say split off point, as you can see here in the figure or exhibit, split off point is the juncture of, or is the juncture in the joint production process when the two or more products became separately identifiable. For example, here we have the oil and gasoline. So you have joint input, then you have the joint cost, and then you have this imaginary line wherein what we call the split off point before it will be or split into identifiable products such as the oil and gasoline. Now, we have also here the third type of cost, which is the separable cost. These are all costs, manufacturing, marketing, distribution, and so on, incurred beyond the split off point and are assignable to each of the specific products identified at the split off point. So you have here the separate processing, and then you have the separate processing a cost for each identifiable product before it will undergo a final sale. Okay, so you can see here clearly in our exhibit. Separable costs also at or beyond the split off point, decisions relating to the sale or further processing of each identifiable product can be made independently of decisions about the other products. All right. So As the example in exhibit show here, the production process in many industries simultaneously yield two or more products either at the split of point or after processing or further processing. Now, in each of these examples, no individual product can be produced without accompanying products appearing here. Although in some cases, the proportions can be varied. Joint costing allocates the joint costs to individual products that are eventually sold. The outputs of the joint production process can be classified into two general categories. So you have the outputs with a positive sales value and the outputs with the zero sales value. Okay. So as you can see here in the figure, you have the industry and you have the separable products at the split of point. For example, we have here agriculture and food processing industries. Now we have here the cocoa beans, and you can also have multiple products produced with these main materials. So you have cocoa butter, powder, drink mix, and tanning cream. We have also here other products of extractive industries such as petroleum, as mentioned before. We can also produce a crude oil and natural gas in that case. Okay, so it means that we have a one input or joint input, and we can have a multiple product or identifiable products. Okay, now for example, we have here the term product, which we describes any output that has a positive total sales value or an output that enables a company to avoid incurring costs, such as intermediate chemical product use an input in another process. So the total sales value can be high or low. Now, when the joint production process yields one product with a high total sales value compared with the total sales value of other products of the process, that product is called the main product. Okay? All right. So, one factor that we can consider is about the level of the total sales of that product. And we can consider that as the main product. Now, when the joint production process yields two or more products, okay, not only one, but two or more products with a high total sales value relative to the total sales of the other products, then those products are called joint products. All right. One purpose also of the level of sales can be determined by determining no the joint products. All right. In contrast, products of a joint production process that have low total sales value relative to the total sales of the main product are called the byproducts. So you have the main products, joint product, and the byproducts, and it can be identified using the level of the total sales relative to the total sales of other product. All right. So distinctions among the main products, joint products, and byproducts are not so clear cut in practice. Now, there are companies use different thresholds for determining whether the relative sales value of the product is high enough for it to be considered a joint product. So it depends on the industry or companies uh, that they can identify if this is a joint, main, or a byproducts. All right, so let's that would be the end of learning objective number one. So we have already identified different basic cost concepts. We have the joint costs, we have the separable costs, and the split of point. Now let me give you a test to check whether you understand the difference between those um factors. So we have here question: which of the following best describes the split of point in a joint production process? So this is a multiple choice problem. Is it the point where the materials are first introduced, or it is the point where products are individually produced or processed, or is it is it the point where the joint products become separately identifiable, or is it the point of final sale? So can you please encode your answer letters only, A, B, C, or D in the chat box. Which of the following best describes the split of point in a joint production process? Let's see. I'll give you 5 seconds to answer this question. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Now, the correct answer here to best describe the split of point of the joint production process is letter C. This is the where the point where the joint products become separately identifiable. All right? That would be the best description for the split of point in a joint production process. Now, I guess there are students, or majority of our students answered the correct um, choice, which is letter C. Okay? So I think we can move on now in learning objective number 2. Unless you have question, maybe you can also key in or encode your answer in our chat box section. All right, let me move on now in our learning objective number 2, which is explain why joint costs are allocated to individual products. Now, there are 5 main purposes of allocating joint costs. All right, so you have costs that arise when the product when producing multiple products from a common input or process. Now, first, we have here the joint costs are allocated for financial reporting. Now, under accounting standards like the GAAP, we need to assign costs to products for inventory valuation and cost of goods sold. For example, a meat processing plant splits joint costs between steaks and ground beef to prepare its financial statements. So this is the first um, or first main purpose of allocating joint costs to individual products. Now, the second one, the allocation helps us to analyze profitability of various business units and evaluate the performance of division managers. Now, take an oil company, for instance. It must allocate drilling costs to gasoline and diesel to see which product line performs better, right? The third one is the joint cost allocation is critical when working under cost plus contracts, especially when the government with the government. For example, hospitals must allocate the cost of organ removal to different transplant centers when Medicare reimburses based on actual cost. Improper allocation of these allocations here can lead to serious legal issues like cross charging. So it can, the purpose also is the cost plus contract reimbursement. The fourth one is we have here, it's used to rate regulation in industries like energy or telecommunications. Now, a company providing both broadband and electricity must allocate shared infrastructure costs to avoid inflating prices for regulated electricity services. All right. Now, lastly, we have also the joint costs data are often used in legal or insurance settlements. Now, for example, if a factory dam is damaged in a fire, joint cost records help justify the insurance claims for lost products. Now, in all these cases, joint cost allocation is not just a technical requirement. It plays a vital role in financial transparency, accountability, compliance, and fairness. All right, with these 5 main purposes of allocating joint costs to individual products, you have the financial reporting, profitability of performance, cost plus a contract reimbursement. You have also the rate regulation and legal and insurance settlement. Now, let me test you again with this learning objective number 2. And you can encode or chat your answer with this question. Now, which of the following is not a reason why companies allocate joint costs? So we've discussed about the five main purposes of allocating joint costs to individual products. Now, the question here is which of the following is not the reason why the companies allocate joint costs? So you can encode or key in your answer in the chat box A, B, C, or D. Is it to comply with financial reporting standard requirements? Is it to determine selling prices at split of point? Is it to evaluate division performance? Or is it to comply with cost plus or cost contract rules? Okay, I see some answers B, C, D, B, but I think majority of the students from both university answered B. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the correct answer here is out of those five, the follow the following is not the reason why the companies allocate joint costs. The answer is B, to determine selling prices at split of points. So we've discussed about those five, and you know that choices A, C, and D are actually listed on those five main purposes. Oh, it seems like our students from both universities are very active and very clear to understand our first two learning objectives. And I'm so um, very feel good with that because you understand already the first two um, what do you call this one? First two learning objectives. So I think we can already proceed with the last learning objective assigned to me, which is the learning objectives number 3, which is to allocate joint costs using the four methods. All right. So, okay. So now the cause and effect and benefits received criteria often guide cost allocation decisions in previous chapter. Now, when we say cause and effect in our previous lessons, if you encounter that, allocate costs based on actual usage or resources or direct cost of the cost. And we have also the benefits received. No, we have allocate costs to determine or to departments or products that receive the most benefits from shared resources. And this cause and effect and benefits received that I'm talking about was already discussed from the previous chapters of your or modules of your course. But our goal here is that to determine which or what are those methods that we can use in allocating joint costs to individual products. Now, joint cost. Now you have here, as you can see here, there are two approaches that are used to allocate joint costs. In approach number 1, allocate joint costs using market-based data such as revenues. This chapter illustrates three methods that use this approach. Now, when we use the methods that allocate joint costs using the market-based data, such as the revenues, there are only three to consider. The first one is the sales value at split of point. We have the NRV or net realizable value method, and we have the constant gross margin percentage NRV method. And approach two, allocate joint costs using the physical measures such as we have the weight, the quantity, or the physical units or volume of the joint products. Now we have here the definition of each methods. Um, when we say sales at split of method, it allocates joint costs to joint products produced during the accounting period on the basis of relative total sales value at split of point. So you need to consider the total sales value at split of point. When we say NRV method, You just have also in addition to the sales value, you just need to consider also the separable costs. Okay, so allocate joint costs to joint products produced during the accounting period based on the relative NRB and final sales value minus the separable costs. And when we say constant gross margin percentage in RV method, it allocates joint cost produced during the accounting period in such a way that each individual product achieves an identical gross margin percentage. All right. And lastly, we have the physical method allocates joint cost products produced during the accounting period based on the comparable physical measure, such as the relative weight, quantity, or volume at the split off point. Okay, so we can understand or clearly understand these four methods by applying it to some problems. Now consider this. The following symbol distinguish the joint or main product from the byproduct. So when you um, clearly see this symbol, this is considered as joint product and main product. While if you see this one, this is considered as byproduct. So let's consider this problem so that we can apply those four methods. Now, farmland dairy purchases raw milk from individual farms and processes it until split of point. When the two products, cream and liquid skim, emerge, these products are sold to an independent company which markets distributes them to supermarkets and other retail outlets. Now in 2020, the company Farmland Dairy operates at and processes 110,000 gallons of raw milk. During processing, 10,000 gallons are lost due to evaporation and spillage, yielding 25,000 gallons of cream and 75 gallons of liquid skim. Now, the data are as follow. So you have joint cost total of $400,000 and you have these following products. Okay. Um, Next one. Now, these are the symbols that I'm talking about. So you have the joint cost of 400,000 and you have the raw milk which will be used in processing, and then you have the split off point, and then after the split off point there will be two identifiable products, which is the cream and liquid skim. So I hope that is clear. And based on this given information, we can now apply or use those methods. The first one is that using the split or the sales value at split of point. And we have already defined sales value at split of point. We just need to use the relative total sales value at the split of point to allocate this $400,000 to both products, which is the cream and liquid scheme. So as you can see here, we have the panel A and panel B. When we say panel A and panel B, this is two methods on how to allocate joint costs of 400,000 using the sales value at split off method. So the panel A, allocation of joint costs using the sales value at split off point. First, we need to consider how much is the sales value of the total production at split off point. So as you can see here, we have the sales value of production, 25,000 for cream and 75,000. And you just have to multiply it to the selling price per gallon, which is 8 and 4. So that's why, as you can see here, 25 times $8, 75,000 times 4 for cream and liquid respectively. So the total sales value for cream is $200,000, while liquid skim has 300,000 sales value, a total of 500,000. Now, under sales value split of method, you just have also to get the ratio or the percentage or weight of these two products to the total relative sales value. So as you can see, you just have to divide 200,000 of the sales value to the total sales value of 500, and you can get the 0.40 or 40%. And then to liquid scheme, 300,000 divided by 500,000 is 0.60. All right. Now, getting this ratio or weight, the next step is you just have to multiply this um, ratio or weight to the total joint cost, which is 400,000. So as you can see here, out of 400,000 times 40% for the cream, now the joint cost allocated to cream is $160,000. While in liquid scheme, $240,000 um, came from by multiplying 400,000 to 0.60 of liquid scheme. So out of 400,000 joint cost, 160 of which should be allocated to cream product and 240 of which should be allocated to liquid scheme product. Okay? Now, in order for us also to get the joint cost per unit or per gallon, all you have to do is to divide this joint allocated cost to each individual products to its production number, which is the gallon. So you have 25,000. Here is a 25,000 for cream and 75,000 for liquid skim. So as you can see, the joint production cost per gallon of cream is 6.40 and 3.20 for liquid skim. So that's very easy to allocate the joint cost using the sales value method. Because you just only need to use the sales value of these products. Okay? In the panel B, the product line income statement using the sales value at split of point. You just have to get the gross margin of the two products using the allocated joint cost. So we all know that the statement format will be first, you need to determine the revenues or the sales of each product. So as you can see here, we have the 160,000. Um, we have the 160,000 for cream and 120,000 for liquid, a total of 240,000. You just have to deduct the total cost of goods sold, and in that cost of goods sold, the production costs or the allocated cost already included in the cost of goods sold. So in order for you to get the total cost of goods sold, you need to consider the joint allocated cost to each product and also incorporating or integrating the change in inventory. So as you can see here, there's no beginning inventory, so you just have to deduct the ending inventory. Ma'am, may I ask how many minutes I have?
It's like 30 minutes left, Mr. Ace.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yep. Thank you very much, ma'am. All right. So, to get the gross margin, you just have to deduct the revenue to the cost of goods sold. I know that our students from both universities are very intelligent and they know about the format of this income statement. So you have 32,000 gross margin for cream and 24,000 for liquid, or a total of $56,000 for both products. And you can also get the gross margin for each product and the total gross margin percentage. This gross margin percentage, again, you just have to divide the gross margin to the total gross margin. Okay? Or the total production costs, or total sales, no, or rather. So as you can see here, 32 divided by 160, 24 divided by 120, and you have the total 56 divided by 280. So gross margin divided by revenue, or the total sales. All right. So that is the sales value method. Okay, so again, the keyword here, when we are using the sales value at split of point method, we use the relative total sales value of the product to allocate the joint cost. Because what we are after at the end of the day is just to determine the allocated joint cost to each product or individual product. The next method is what we call the physical measure method. And we define this physical measure method as to using the physical quantity or physical measure, whether using the relative weight, quantity, or volume at split off point. So using the same problem, given information, we can now allocate the joint cost of 400,000 using the physical method or physical measure method. So as you can see here in the panel A, which is the allocation, and panel B is the income statement format. So using the physical measure, again, we need to determine what are those measures or physical measures. In this case, we have here the 25,000 gallon for cream and 75,000 liquid cream for um or gallon for liquid skim. So um you can put here in the physical measure 25,000 for cream, liquid for 75,000, and get the total of these production. So a total of 100,000. The same as what we did in the sales value method, we calculate the weight or the ratio or the percentage of this factor. So as you can see, 25,000 gallons divided by 100,000 gallons total is 0.25 for cream. For liquid, 75,000 gallons divided by 100,000 gallons is 0.75. So that is the weight for each product. And all you have to do is to multiply this weight to the total joint cost of 400,000. So let's say, for example, for cream, 400,000 times 0.25 is 100,000. 400,000 for liquid skim times 0.75 is 300,000. So this is the joint allocated cost using the physical method for cream and liquid skim. Okay? So as you can see, 400 out of 400,000, the assigned or allocated cost for cream is 100,000 and 300,000 for liquid skim. And then in order for us to get the joint production cost per gallon, all you have to do is to divide this allocated joint cost to the number of gallons. So 100,000 divided by 25,000 is 4. Then 300,000 divided by 75,000 gallons is 4 also. Okay? Since you have already identified or allocated the joint cost to each individual products, we can now we are now ready to prepare for an income statement using the physical measure method. So first, we need again to determine the revenues of each product. So multiply again the sales and then the selling price to each product. So in this case, 160 for cream and 120 for liquid skim. Then we need to deduct the cost of goods sold, including the joint costs, including or integrating or incorporating any changes in inventory. In this case, we don't have beginning inventory, so we need to consider the deducting the ending inventory. So we have the allocated joint cost, production cost to each product, and then minus the ending inventory so that we can get the cost of goods sold to each product. So in this case, the cost of goods sold for cream is 80,000, 120,000 for liquid skim, a total of 200,000 cost of goods sold. And then revenues minus cost of goods sold is the gross margin. So cream has 80,000 gross margin, $160,000 times 80 sorry, minus $80,000, while liquid skim 120,000 minus 120,000 is 0. So the total gross margin here is $80,000. And you have 50% gross margin percentage for cream, 0 percentage for liquid, a total of 28.6% for gross margin percentage. So when you compare the sales value at split of point method in the physical method, there is a difference when you are presenting the gross margin. If we can go back to the previous slides using the sales value at split off, Cream has 32,000 gross margin, while liquid skim has 24,000 gross margin. Using the physical measure, now cream has 80,000 gross margin and liquid scheme has zero gross margin. That is because we use different methods. That's why we come up with different gross margin. So later, our lecturer from Telcom University will discuss also what is the appropriate methods to be used in a company. Okay, so let's move on to the next method, which is the net realizable value method. Now, in the net realizable value method, as we defined, we consider not only the total sales relative sales value of the product, of each individual product, but we also consider the separable costs. And you know that it is considered net when you are deducting certain amount. In this case, in the net realizable value method, we deducted the separable cost to the total sales value in order to get the NRV or
Next
net
minggu depan dipakai jadi.
realizable value.
Kalau lu dipakai minggu depan.
So I think
Maksudnya
there are unmuted. All right, thank you very much. Now, as you can see here in the diagram, we have again the joint cost of 400,000 and we have the separable cost. And you know that the separable cost will emerge or incur or exist after the split of point. No, as you can see here in the line, split of point, joint cost is before the split of point, and separable cost is after the split of point. So if you are going to again um, go to the decision making process in relevant costing, if you already encountered that, in relevant costing, we consider joint cost as past cost, which is irrelevant, and separable cost as future cost, which is relevant cost. So in this case, we can use this under the net realizable value method, both the joint cost and separable costs. Okay, in order for us to get the NRV, simply just deduct the joint product cost of individual products to the separable cost of each individual product and use that value to get the weight. Okay, so let's see. You have again raw milk of 110,000 gallons, and you have also products produced to each product, 25,000 gallons for cream and 75 gallons for um, liquid skim after the split of point. And then if you are going to further process it, you will incur a separable cost, further processing cost, or additional processing cost. For cream is 280,000 and further processing 520,000 for liquid skim. Okay? And consider this also after the separable or further processing. In the next slide, we will now use this information to apply the net realizable value method. So as you can see here, we have joint costs again of 400,000 and you have also a separable cost for each product. So 280,000 for buttercream and 520,000 for milk. Okay. Now we consider changes in the name of this um, uh, product because we are now under after the split of point. Okay. So we will consider the separable costs. Okay, for further processing. Now, as you can see here, also the given information you have cream, liquid skim, buttercream, and condensed milk. Okay, let's proceed to the next um, slides. Um, Disclosing the how to compute or use the net realizable value method, um, determining how to allocate the joint product costs. So here in the NRV method, we will start now in the final sales value of the total production during accounting period. So we need to consider this um, figures 20,000 times 25 per gallon and 50,000 gallons times 22 per gallon. These figures came from the sorry, came from here, no, after considering the separable cost or further processing. Okay, so that is clear. And you have the final sales value for buttercream is 500,000 and $1.1 million for condensed milk, a total of 1.6 million. And it will not stop there because you need also to consider the separable cost because you are using the net realizable value method. So final sales value minus separable cost is already your net realizable value at split off point. So given this information, given the separable cost, the total NRV at split off point for buttercream is $220,000, while in the condensed milk is 500,000 or $580,000, a total of $800,000. And from that, you can now get the weight or ratio or percentage to be used in allocating the joint cost. So in this case, 220,000 net realizable value of buttercream divided by 800,000 is this weight, 0.275. While 500,000 for condensed milk, 580 divided by 800,000 is 0.725. And you can use this weight by multiplying it to our total joint costs. Okay, so joint cost of 400,000 times 0.275 is 110,000. 400,000 times 0.725 is 290,000. And these are the joint allocated costs to each individual product. And again, getting or calculating the product cost per gallon, all you have to do is to divide these 110,000 plus separable costs. Don't forget that plus separable costs to the total gallons sold. So 20,000, in this case, the buttercream, 110,000 plus 280,000 divided by 20,000 gallons. And that is 19.50. While in condensed milk, 290,000 plus separable cost of 520,000, this is the separable cost, divided by 50,000, and that is 16.20. And because we have already allocated or get the allocated joint cost to each individual product, we can now prepare for the product line income statement using the net realizable value method. And of course, as you can see the pattern of this, when you use sales value method, there will be a different gross margin. When you use physical method, there will be a different figure for gross margin. And of course, using the NRV, you can also come up with different gross margin figure. So as you can see here, from the start revenue minus cost of goods sold, in this case, we have additional processing costs or the separable costs aside from the joint allocated costs. And then we need also to consider deducting the inventory or ending inventory. So the total cost of goods sold here is 234 for buttercream and 729 for condensed milk. So as you can see here, 66,000 for buttercream is the gross margin and 261,000 for condensed milk. Okay? So I'm sorry, do I still have more time, ma'am?
Yes, around 7 minutes, sir.
Okay. Now we are here in the constant, thank you very much, ma'am. Constant gross margin percentage of NRB. Okay, so we have here the steps on how to compute this. The step one is for us to compute the overall gross margin percentage as what we did in the previous slides. And then the step two is to compute the total production cost for each product. And then step three, we need to allocate joint costs. So as you can see here in the panel A, in the step one, we need to determine the percentage gross margin for each individual or the total product. So as you can see here, the gross margin percentage is 25%. And that is for the step one. And the step two, you need to compute the total production cost for each product. So we have here in the buttercream, the final sales, and we have the gross margin, and we have the total production cost. And what we are doing here is actually working back, okay? Because we started from final sales, then deducting the gross margin of each product to come up with the total production costs for each individual product. So in this case, buttercream has 375,000 total production cost, and condensed milk has 825,000 production costs. And step three is for us to deduct the separable cost to the total production cost in order for us to get the joint cost allocated. In this manner, we are actually calculating um, back so that we can determine the joint cost allocated. So from the total production cost, if we will deduct the separable cost, we can get the joint cost allocated. Because we all know that the total production cost include already the joint allocated. Because in our goal here is to get the joint cost allocated using the constant gross margin percentage NRV. So as you can see here, the joint cost allocated to buttercream is 95,000 and 305,000 for condensed milk. Okay? And this is the income statement um, per segment or per product. So again, using different method, you can come up with different gross margin. And in this case, the only differ difference between those NRV in the previous slide is that we have a different joint cost allocated because we have a different way on how to compute the joint costs. And uh, and with that, of course, we will come up with different figure in the gross margin and the gross margin percentage. So as you can see here, using the constant gross margin percentage, there is a jump in the amount of gross margin of condensed milk compared with the buttercream product. And that's because we are actually relatively using an accurate method in allocating the joint cost. Okay, so we consider this later, discussing with which appropriate method to be used. Now, since we've already discussed the LO3, the learning objective number three, for my last slide, please answer this question. Okay. And then encode your answer in the chat box. Which joint cost allocation method uses the estimated final sales value minus separable costs? If you remember this method, which joint cost allocation method uses the estimated final sales value minus separable cost? Is it physical method measure method? Is it the constant gross margin percentage NRV method? Or is it the sales value at split off method? Or is it net realizable value method? Can you please enter your answer in the chat box? Sales, final sales minus separable cost is what? What method we are using? Okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the correct answer is letter D. And I think majority of the students answered letter D. That's correct. You are very attentive to our discussion. So NRV is final sales value, relative final sales value minus separable cost. Okay? So if you have any question, you can send me an email at acgnino@usa.edu.ph, or you can also encode your answer here in our chat box. Thank you very much for your attention. Ma'am, I'm already
Yes.
done.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Ace, for the explanation and the presentation. So students, sorry, do you have questions to Mr. Ace about the previous explanation or material? If not, so give us some reactions. Okay, thank you. All right. So yeah, if there is no questions, we're going to move on to the next speaker. So from Telkom University lecturer, we've got Bapak Roy Budiharjo SEMAK. So hello,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Roy,
Hello,
are you
mom.
ready for the explanation today for your
Yes, I'm
presentation?
ready.
Okay then.
Yes, I'm ready.
So please proceed, Pak.
Okay, I want to share my material. Any my material? Looking
Yes, it's visible, Pak Roy.
visible, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to our international class on cost accounting, a collaboration between Telkom University in Indonesia and University of San Agustin in the Philippines. It is a great honor for me to be here today and to collaborate with Mr. S. Jerome M. Nino from San Agustin University. I truly appreciate this opportunity to share insight and knowledge in this joint academic session. I'm Rebudi Harjo, and today I will be guiding you through session 2, where we explore one of the most practical and the essential topics in managerial cost allocation for joint products and byproducts. Before we dive deeper into today's session, let's take a look at what you are expected to learn. Yeah, the first you will be able to identify when the sales value at split of method, yeah, is the most appropriate technique for allocating joint costs. This is especially useful when reliable market prices exist at the point where products are separated in the production process. The second, you will understand why joint costs are considered irrelevant sale or process further depreciation. This is critical managerial concept, yeah, helping you focus only on future revenues and costs when making business choices. And finally, you will again the ability to account for byproducts using two distinct methods. Yeah, even though byproducts might seem minor compared with two main products. The way we treat them in financial reports can influence overall cost allocation and performance evaluation. When it comes allocating joint costs, one of the most preferred and widely accepted methods is the sales value at split of method, especially when reliable selling prices are available at the split of point. Yeah. Why is this method favored? Yeah. There are four key reasons. Yeah. The first, it provides a clear measure of the benefits received. Yeah. Its product is assigned cost in proportion to the revenue it can generate, making it a fair and logical approach. The second is a method is independent of the further processing decisions. Yeah, that means we don't have to consider what happens to the products after they separated. Yeah, but we focus only on their value at the split of point. Yeah, the third, it uses a common allocation basis revenue. Yeah, since revenue is objective, measurable, and meaningful across industries, yeah, it serves as a consistent standard for assigning costs. And lastly, the simplicity. Yeah, of this method makes it easy to apply both academic scenarios and real world business context. So whenever market prices are available as split off, yeah, the sales value method offers both accuracy and practically enjoying cost allocation. When market prices at the split of point are unavailable, yeah, we turn to the net realizable value method or NRV. Yeah, this method is considered the best alternative because it helps us estimate what the sales value at split off would have been by subtracting variable cost from the final selling price. In simple terms, yeah, the NRV method assumes that all profit margin are generated from the join process, not from what happened afterward. Yeah, this makes it useful for industries where product requires significant post split of processing. It's commonly used when prices at split off are missing or unreliable, and it offers, yeah, a better reflection of the economic benefits each product contributes, more so than the constant gross margin or physical measure methods. Now, speaking of the physical measure method, while it seems straightforward, using a wide volume or rate or other physical units, yeah, it does not always reflect actual value or benefits received. However, in some situation, it may be the only viable option. This is especially true when prices are highly volatile or when a comparable physical measure exists and prices are uncertain. The key takeaway, yeah, use the NFV method when price data at split off is not available. It provides a logical, yeah, value-based alternative for cost allocation that help maintain financial accuracy. Yes, this is not all companies choose to allocate joint costs. Yeah, joint costs, and there is a good reason for that. In some industries, especially those involving complex production or extraction processes, yeah, allocating joint costs can be extremely difficult and time consuming due to the lack of detailed and reliable data. A real world example comes from a study of 9 sawmills in Norway. Interestingly, none of them allocated joint costs. The researchers found that while the companies were intellectually interested in that issue, yeah, they agreed that solving the joint cost problem was not easy or even necessary for their operations. So what do these companies do instead? Yeah, because industry like meat packing, canning, and mining often skip the allocation step entirely. They subtract joint costs directly from total revenue and then value their inventories at net realizable value or in RV. Yeah, but here is the catch. Yeah, recognizing inventory at in RV also means recognizing income before the products are even sold. To avoid overstating earnings, some companies take a more conservative approach, yeah, by deducting an estimated profit margin from the NFD in RV. This ensures that only a portion of the value is recorded as income, keeping financial statement more balanced. Ultimately, these slides show us that in practice, simplicity often wins over theory, especially when reliable data is scarce. Now, yeah, let's pause and think about an important question. When is the sales value at split mode considered preferable for allocating joint costs to individual products, and why? Well, the answer is quite straightforward, yeah. This is the sales value at split of method is preferred when market prices exist as split of because using revenues is consistent with the benefit received criterion. Moreover, the method is simple and does not depend on subsequent decision made about further processing. Well, yeah, the sales value is split of method is preferred. Yeah, that is when products become spreadly identifiable in the production process. Why? Yeah, why? Because allocating joint costs based on revenue ensures that each product gets a fair share of the cost according to the value it contributes. Yeah, contributes. This is consistent with the benefits received principle, a core concept in cost accounting. Another big advantage is of this method is its simplicity. Yeah, it does not require us to worry about what happens after the split of point. No assumptions, no estimates about further processing. We simply use with the market tells us. So whenever market prices are reliable, the sales value at split of method not only makes sense mathematically, but also align with good reporting practices. Yeah. Now we go to uh, learning objective 5. Yeah. Explain why joint costs are irrelevant in sale or process for the decision. Yeah. In this sample, the company has the option, yeah, process cream into buttercream and liquid skim into condensed milk. For each option, we calculate the incremental operating income. That's the extra income earned beyond the split of point. For buttercream, yeah, the additional revenue is 30 thousand $100,000 ya, dollars ya, while the incremental cost is 100,000, leading to $20,000 increase in operating income. Similarly, condensed milk brings in XT $100,000 in revenue, and cost, ya, on cost resulting in 20 ST 100,000 in added income. But there is the key point. Joint costs are not part this analysis. Yeah. Why? Because they are already before the split of point. There are some costs, including them, in this decision, what distort our judgment. So, what should manager focus on? Yeah, the future. Specifically, they should look at whether the extra revenue outweighs the extra cost. If it does, yeah, as in this case, further purchasing makes sense. This is a powerful reminder in decision making. Ignore the past. Focus on what lies ahead. Let's reinforce this key idea. Yeah, joint cost like $400,000, yeah, shown here, are relevant when deciding whether the process products further. Why? Because these costs are the same no matter what you do next. Whether you sell at the split of point or continue processing, the $400,000 has already been spent. It's a sunk cost. What really matters is the incremental income, the additional profit you can earn by going further. But here is an important caution. Not all post split of cost, yeah, are truly incremental. Some some are fixed costs, like the lease on a facility. Other might be allocated costs or already sunk, like equipment depreciation. So when you are analyzing, ask yourself, is this a future cost that can be avoided? I don't process further. Yeah, only those costs, the avoidable forward-looking costs, are relevant. This from this slide, yeah, remind us to think critically. Then just include all numbers. Focus only on what actually changed with the decision. In management accounting, one of the biggest challenges is ensuring consistency between decision making data and performance evaluation metrics. This slide gives us a real world example of that conflict. Yeah, let's say that a company allocates $30,000 in fixed corporate and administrative costs to the buttercream product line. These costs are not truly affected by the manager's decision to process further. They are just assigned for reporting purposes. From a decision making perspective, further purchasing adds $20,000 in operating income. That sounds like a good business move, but because of the $30,000 in allocated fixed cost, the manager performs report now show a loss of $10,000. This could discourage manager from making decisions that are beneficial to the company. To avoid this distortion, we recommend using market-based allocation methods, such as sales value at split off or the NRV method. This approaches, yeah, use actual revenues as the allocation base, which ensures that its product reflects a fair share of cost relative to its contribution. When evaluation metrics don't align with the session relevant data, managers may feel penalized for doing that right thing. That's why it is so important to choose cost methods that reflects economic reality, not just accounting rules. Yeah, when it comes to pricing decisions, it is important to understand that joint costs do not provide a reliable foundation. These costs are typically allocated using convenience basis, like physical volume or sales value. but they do not truly reflect how much research its product consumes. In other words, they lack a real cause and effect, yeah, relationship with the actual production or market value of the product. Because of that, joint cost should not be used to set product prices. Instead, yeah, pricing decision should be driven by what the market is willing to pay, not by how costs are divided on paper. Yeah. In fact, if we use sales value at split of or the net realizable value method or NRV, the pricing logic flips. Now the market price influences cost allocation, not the other way around. Yeah. From this slide, remind us a critical point in the long run. Yeah, the combined revenue from all joint products must be enough to cover total joint costs. That's the big picture. But when it comes to individual product pricing, we need to look at market dynamics, customer demand, and competitive positioning, not arbitrary cost splits. Yeah. So joint costs are helpful for financial reporting, but they should never dictate your pricing strategy. Next, yeah, let's pause here and answer a critical question about, are joint costs relevant when deciding whether to sell a products at the split of point or the process it further. Do you know the answer? Anyone know the answer? This question: are joint costs relevant in sell or process further decision? Yeah, the answer is no. Yeah, joint costs. Yeah, okay, true. Yeah, the answer is no. Why? Yeah, because joint costs are considered irrelevant in a sale or process for the decision. Why? Okay. Okay, this is the answer from Risa Iler Peblo. Sorry, my pronunciation, spelling your name. No, joint costs are not relevant in a sale or process for the decision. The decision should be based on additional revenue generated by further processing compared to the additional costs included. Yes, yeah. Joint costs and how they are allocated are irrelevant because they are the same regardless of whether further processing occurs. Yeah. These costs are already incurred by the time the product reaches the split of point. They are sunk, yeah. No matter what you decide after that, whether to sell the product as is or to add more value through further processing. The joint cost remains the same. It does not increase, decrease, or change based on your decision. This means that your focus should shift entirely to what's ahead, to the future, Yeah, sorry. You should evaluate only the additional revenue and the additional costs that income after the split of point. Yeah, those are the numbers that matter. Yeah, that matter. Only those will tell you if further purchasing is truly profitable. Good managerial decisions, yeah, are forward looking. Don't let past costs distract you from future profits. So we go to the last learning object, sorry. In a joint production environment, it's not just the main and joint products that matter, by-products also play a key role. Yeah, even though their total sales value is usually small compared to the main products, by-product can still influence cost allocation and contribute to overall profitability. Yeah, take this example from Westlake Corporation. The company process timber into fine grade lumber, yeah, the main product, and wood chips, a byproduct. The lumber sells for $6 per board foot, while the wood chips sell for $1 per cubic foot. In July 2020, they produce 50,000 board feet of lumber and 4,000 cubic feet of wood chips. Out of this, yeah, they shot for 40,000 board feet and 1,200 cubic feet, yeah, respectively, leaving 10,000 board feet and to to 800 2,800 cubic in inventory. So why is this relevant? Because how we account for byproducts like wood chips, yeah, either at the time of production or at the point of sale, can significantly affect reported profits, inventory valuation, and decision making. That's why understanding both the production method and the sales method of byproduct accounting is essential for accurate cost management and transparent financial reporting. Yeah, continuing with our example from Westlake Corporation, this slide gives us a visual representation of the joint production process. Yeah, timber enters the processing stage, and at the split of point, it yields two outputs. Yeah, 50,000 board feet of fine grade lumber and 4,000 cubic feet of wood chips. Now, how do we account for those wood chips, yeah, which are classified are byproducts? There are two primary methods. The first production method under this approach, yeah, the value of the byproduct is recognized immediately at the time of production. This means is recorded into the financial statement as inventory or as a rejection in the cost of the main product, even before the byproduct is sold. The second, we have the sales method, yeah, with delay recognition. In this case, the byproduct is only accounted for when it's sold. It is sold. No inventory is recorded until that point, yeah, and the revenue appears directly into the income statement. Each method has its own advantage and implication for reporting and decision making. Understanding when and why to use each approach is essential for accurate cost allocation and fair financial reporting. Yeah, let's take a deeper look at how byproduct impact the income statement using the Westlake Corporation case for July 2020. This comparison highlights the differences between the production method and the sales method of byproduct accounting. Under the production method, the value of wood chip, which is 4,000 cubic feet at $1 per cubic foot, is deducted upfront from the total manufacturing cost. This reduces the net manufacturing cost, which in turn improves the gross margin. You will see the gross margin here. Here is 43,000 to the $200, with a margin percentage 18%. Now contrast with the sales method. In this approach, revenue from the product, the byproduct, sorry, $1,200 from selling 1,200 cubic feet, is recognized only when the product is actually sold. There is no cost reduction upfront, so the total manufacturing cost remain unchanged at 250,000 dollars. This result in slightly lower gross margin, 41,200, with a margin percentage 17.08%. Additionally, under the production method, the ending inventory includes both finished lumber and unsold wood chips. Sorry. While in the sales method, only the lumber is valued. The remaining wood chips are ignored until sold. This comparison shows us how method selection affects both reported profit and asset values. The production method accelerates recognition of the byproduct's value, whereas the sales method is more conservative and tied to realized income. Okay, next slide. Now let's walk through the production method of accounting for byproducts using Westlake Corporation's wood chip production in July 2022 as an example. Under this method, byproduct, in this case, 4,000 cubic feet of wood chips is recognized immediately in the financial statement once it is produced. The journal entries shown here reflect every key transaction, from materials and conversion costs to the valuation and sales of both the main product and the byproduct. We begin by recording the direct material and conversion costs, with total $250,000. Once production is completed, $4,000, the value of the wood chip is moved into byproduct inventory at the full selling price of $1 per cubic foot. This amount is then deducted from finished good inventory for fine grade lumber, reducing the cost of goods sold accordingly. Later, when a portion of the wood chip is sold, specifically 1,200 cubic feet, valued at $1,200, that revenue is recorded in the income statement. One variation of this method applies a normal profit margin reduction to calculate the NRV. For example, if we apply 20% profit margin, 2,000 to 2,800 of byproduct inventory, we would record $2,240 as the asset value and the remaining $560 as byproduct operating income when short. This approach ensures that the byproduct's value is recognized early, aligns well with the matching principle in accounting, and provides better visibility into how byproducts contribute to financial performance. In contrast to the production method, the sales method of byproduct accounting delays recognize of byproducts until the moment they are actually sold. No journal entries are made during production. Instead of once the sale happens, the revenue from byproducts is recorded either as other income or as a rejection to cost of goods sold, depending on the company's reporting preference. Let's take the case of Westlake Corporation during July 2020. They sold 2,200 cubic feet of wood chips for 1,200 dollars under the sales method. This is the only moment when the byproduct appears in the financial statements. Now, which method should a company use? The production method is more aligned with the matching principle. It recognizes cost and relate income in the same accounting period. That's why many accountants consider it the better option when accuracy and consistency are priorities. However, the sales method is simpler and widely used in practice, especially when byproducts are considered immaterial in value. But there is a caveat, because income is only recognized at the time of sale. This method can be manipulated to manage earnings, but by timing the sales of a product. So the sales method offers easy of use, but the production method provides more transparent and theoretically sound reporting. Nah, this is some case study Now let's put theory into practice with the simple case study. Houston Corporation produce two products, Astros and Texans. The total joint cost for producing both products is $120,000, and the production volumes are 20,000 gallons for Astros and 10,000 gallons for Texans, giving us a total 30,000 gallons. The question is how should this $120,000 joint cost be allocated if we use a volume-based allocation method? Let's do the math. Sorry. Astros makes up to 2/3 of the value, the total volume, yeah, 20,000 gallons, yeah, divide 30,000 gallons. Texan makes 1/3, 10,000 divide 30,000. Now let's apply this ratio. Yeah, Astros 2/3, yeah, 2/3 multiple to 120,000 dollars. Yeah, you can know about um 60,000 dollars. Yeah, Texan 1/3 multiple 120,000 dollars. Yeah, they get about $40,000. So the correct answer is option 2. Yeah, option 2. Yeah, this case clearly illustrate how joint costs can be allocated proportionally based on physical output like volume. Yeah, but remember, while this method is simple and easy to apply, it does not always reflect, yeah, economic value. That's why choosing the right allocation method depends on the availability of data and the decision making context. Yeah, and the last at this point, yeah, let's pause and reflect what a key decision. The question, what methods can be used to account for byproducts and which of them is preferable? Anyone now to answer this question? What methods can be used to account for byproducts and which of them is preferable? Who can answer this question? No one? Okay, the answer, yeah, the production method and the sales method. Yeah, the production method recognized by products in financial statement at the time of their production, whereas the sales method recognized by products in financial statement at the time of their sale. The production method is conceptually superior, but the sales method is often used in practice because, yeah, the dollar amounts of byproducts are immaterial. Okay, the answer depends on the materiality of the products and the firm's reporting goals. If accuracy and timely reflection of production value and priorities, yeah, the production method may be better. But if simplicity and efficiency are more important, especially when the amount are minor, yeah, then the sales method might be the more practical choice. Okay. Thank you for all this for joining for this insightful session. on cost allocation for joint products and byproducts. We hope you now have a deeper understanding of how joint costs are assigned, yeah, how byproducts are treated, and why this decision matter for accurate financial reporting and effective managerial decision making. Yeah, remember, cost accounting is not just about numbers. It is about making informed decision that support business strategy and transparency. Whether you are in classroom or a corporate boardroom, this concept will empower you to the think critically and allocate cost wisely. Yeah. Thank you for me.
All right, thank you very much, Pak Roy, for the invaluable material presentation and also explanation. So tell you students or USA students, any questions? Pak Roy, there's one question from Yehuda Andrew
Okay.
and also Iqbal Cahyo.
Okay.
Okay. In the chat box of Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Miss Asri. I will read the question from the first, from
Iqbal Cahyo
Iqbal Cahyo
Saputra, Pak.
Saputra. Okay.
Yes.
I would like to ask you about this. Why joint costs considered irrelevant in sell or process further decisions? What you please answer? Thank you. Okay. And the second from Yehuda, yeah. Sorry, I have one question. How does the choice between the production method and the sales method of accounting for byproduct affect the financial statement? Okay, I will answer the first question from Iqbal Cahyo Saputra.
Saputra, yes, sir.
Okay. Why are joint costs considered irrelevant in sell or process further decisions? Yeah, the answer is joint costs are considered irrelevant in sell or process, further decision because they are sunk costs, costs that have already been incurred before the decision point and cannot be recovered. Yeah, since they do not change based on whether a product is sold immediately or processed further, they should not influence the decision. Yeah, what really matters is the incremental analysis comparing the additional revenue from further processing with the additional variable cost required to generate that revenue. If the incremental revenue is greater than the incremental cost, then it makes sense to process further. Okay, and the second question from Yehuda Andrew about how does the choice between the production method and the sales method of accounting for byproducts affect the financial statements? The answer, the choice between the production method and the sales method significantly affects how and when revenue and inventory are recognized in the financial statement. Yeah, under the production method, the byproducts value is recognized as soon as it is produced. This typically reduces to the cost of the main product and increases inventory value, leading to higher gross margin earlier into the process. Yeah, under the sales method, revenue from the byproduct is recognized only when the byproduct is sold. This approach does not affect inventory valuation upfront and leads to a more conservative recognition of income. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Pa. So any more questions, students? All right, then. If there are no more questions, here I'm going to send you a feedback link. So please kindly fill out the feedback for you to get the e-certificate, yeah? So here it is, the feedback link for today's online join class. Okay. Iqbal said, thank you, Pak Roy, for the answer.
You're welcome, Iqbal.
And also Yehuda said, thank you as well.
Okay, my
For,
pleasure.
yeah,
Thank you,
for the
Yehuda.
explanation. All right. Thank you, Iqbal and Yehuda, and also Pak Roy, yeah, for the answer. Right, everyone, please fill out the feedback link. Fill out the feedback that I've shared you. Okay. So I'm gonna give you some time to fill out the feedback. And then later on, let's have a photo session together, yeah? So kindly please turn on your cam because we're going to have a photo session together. So Miss Willie, thank you also for joining today's online join class. And Mr. Ace, so let's have a photo session together, yeah? With Pak Roy as well. Okay, so let's begin for the photo session. Tell your students, USA students, kindly please turn your camera on. We're going to have a photo session together for today's online join class. So I'm gonna count. Right, 3, 2, 1, smile. All right, so yeah, thank you very much for joining our OJC today, a collaborative program between Telkom University Indonesia and University of San Agustin, the Philippines. Okay, and yeah, on the 8th of May 2025. Thank you, everyone. So here, yeah, I bid you a goodbye. Thank you one more time to Mr. Ace and Pak Roy and also Miss Willia for today's online join class, as well as to Telu students and USA students. I hope you join our next program later. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So here I bid you a goodbye. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon. Thank you. Can you
Thank
feel,
you.
thank you. Can you fill out the feedback? Yeah.